what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks analyst Bobby Carell and our national NBA insider, Marc Stein. We are DLLS Mavs, your favorite guys, coming your favorite team every single day. Really appreciate you joining us here on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you are here as well. What were your All-Star game impressions after Kyrie Irving's big weekend in the Bay? Plus, after 2 weeks, what has still stunned you the most about the trade that the Lakers and Mavericks commits between Anthony Davis and Luka Doncic? We'll get into all that more coming up over the next hour as we dive into some things today, as we are just a few days away from the Mavericks resuming their season. They'll resume that on Friday when they take on the New Orleans Pelicans at home. And then, of course, they've got a date with Luka Doncic and the Lakers coming up next week. But before we get there, gentlemen, how was your break? Did you enjoy the few days off from non-broadcasting, spend some time away at home?
It was great to unwind. It was great to relax, Kevin. But it's even greater to be back in the DLLS Sports studio with you alongside Marc Stein in the flesh. And I got to say, the lighting in the room, the ominous kind of clouds outside, it's all combining to make whenever you're looking down, you got the brim pulled low. You're looking dangerous, man. I admire your look today.
Dangerous.
No, man, I'm just happy to be here with you guys. I can't say that there was much of a break. There has been no let up since February 1st, as everyone knows, and All-Star viewing. Can't say that lifted the spirits too much, but we forge ahead, and I'm honored to be with you guys in studio. No Cato. Where's Cato?
Cato's got the day off today. He's take the day off. He'll be back with us tomorrow, so you'll be able to see him tomorrow when you're reporting from your remote location when you join us tomorrow on the show. So shout out to Tim Cato enjoying a little bit of time off, but he'll be back with us tomorrow. But gentlemen, let's just jump into it. Obviously, a few days before the Mavericks return to the floor, it was All-Star Weekend in the Bay. For the first time in 25 years, the NBA made its return to Oakland, California, or I should say San Francisco this time around, celebrating the 25-year anniversary, of course, of Vince Carter and one of the greatest dunk contests of all time. Kyrie Irving and Shaq's OGs winning the All-Star game in the new format, of course, tournament-style, Adam Silver, as the Shaq OGs were able to take out Chuck's global stars to be able to win this year's All-Star game. A lot of opinions, dissenting, and praise when it came to the All-Star game and its format. Of course, Luka Doncic was on the brain of a lot of folks, including Adam Silver, this past weekend as well, which we'll get into throughout the course of the show. But, gentlemen, Kyrie Irving, part of Shaquille O'Neal's OG team, played extremely well for the All-Star game and was able to put on a show. Kyrie Irving, speaking to the new format, of course, that we saw over the course of the weekend. He wasn't there, Jeff. He definitely was not there. But Kyrie, what he had to say about the new format itself and the breaks and everything that took place during the presentation of the game. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, no, I think, the time in between, it's our ad revenue, though. You know what I'm saying? If you know business behind the scenes, everything matters in terms of that. But, I think the NBA did their best they could and, still make it competitive. You got to keep everybody on the floor. There was a lot of commercial breaks, a lot of things going on, engaging with the fans, engaging with former players. So you just got to give everybody grace, man, like I've been saying the past few weeks. But I enjoyed myself. It was a quick weekend. We got the W, and we represented for the OGs.
Thoughts on the All-Star game itself? You heard Kyrie Irving there discuss a little bit about the presentation of the game. One of the things that a lot of folks did not necessarily appreciate, the broadcast was on TNT, of course, with TNT Sports, who are in their final year of broadcasting NBA games. But at the same time, too much Kevin Hart, who was the MC of the NBA All-Star game on Sunday, and not enough necessarily basketball with the amount of breaks, commercials, presentations. They really interrupted the flow of the game. What were your guys' thoughts on the All-Star game in and of itself, not only on Sunday, but the overall weekend, given the presentation and format of this year's game?
You want me to go first?
I need you to go first.
I mean, look, Sunday was, we know, not good.
Sure.
And you can't even judge. I've heard people say, you know what, the format wasn't so bad. The new format actually showed some glimmers. It was hard to tell because there were so many interruptions, so many things that took away from the game. Guys on the court getting visibly frustrated at all the interruptions, way too much Kevin Hart, and just
At one point, there was SGA, and you can see a video of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's looking toward the direction of Kevin Harlan, like, man, shut the hell up. Like, we're ready to play more basketball. Like, shut up. And he was just, you could tell he's visibly frustrated as far as the game was concerned. Yeah.
And look, I wrote a huge piece about this last year after I went to Indianapolis. And because I was not there, I was not present in San Francisco. And I wrote a huge thing about it last year, because last year everybody was fuming about all the 3-pointers and the no defense. It's like, part of it is the NBA All-Star game is just held to this ridiculous standard. Like, it's an All-Star game. Like, it's not going to be an amazingly competitive game filled with hardcore defense. It's just not. And it was never meant to be that way. And I think a huge element here, it's funny, a friend of mine from high school sent me a clip earlier in the day of intros from the 1985 All-Star game, so 40 years ago, when I was in high school. You guys just have to understand what a different time it was. The intros had me mesmerized, and even now, as an old man, when I rewatch them, I'm still mesmerized because I can just remember how cool it was. And I've used this example before because now I've lived in Dallas for so long, but like, I didn't get to see Rolando Blackman play a lot living in Southern California. And that, just seeing the intros of guys you didn't get to see regularly, it was just so great. But 40 years later, these guys are in our lives hourly, sometimes even more. You mentioned Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This doesn't have to be a Mavericks thing. Whatever all-star you want to name, the minute they make a great play in 2025, it goes everywhere. There's no mystery. We have so much more access to star players than we did when I was in high school. And so part of it is nostalgia too. We're always nostalgic about what we love, and nothing can compare to, the greatness of what we remember. But the utility of the All-Star game, it's kind of like SportsCenter. You don't need SportsCenter for highlights like you did when I was in high school or college. Like, when I was in high school, SportsCenter was such a big deal. We had a group of about 12 of us. One guy had a VCR, and it was actually a beta machine. It wasn't even a VCR. And it was his job to tape as much of SportsCenter and CNN from the night before so we could all sneak to his house at lunch and watch dunks. Like, that's how it was in the 80s. In 2025, we see everything instantaneously over and over and over again. So it's like the need for an all-star game, the need to see these guys get together in this manner, that's not the emphasis of All-Star Weekend. What is important about All-Star Weekend, truthfully, to the league, it's a convention. It is a convention for everyone in the league to get together in the middle of the season. They can't control where the finals are going to be. They don't know where the finals are going to be. It's not like the NFL. You know where the Super Bowl is going to be no matter which two teams are in it. So for the NBA, this is that Super Bowl effect where the whole league and all the sponsors and all the power brokers and insiders and, everybody can go and know, okay, I'm going to San Francisco after Valentine's Day. And that's what All-Star is for at this point. And the game, they just keep trying to save the game. And because, again, the NBA takes more criticism on stuff like this than any league out there. It's been like this since the 70s. The 70s are when all the stories started about what's wrong with the NBA. Will the NBA survive? And then the NBA, David Stern came in. First Magic and Larry came in 1979-80. David Stern came in as commissioner. Then Jordan came in. The league took off. But that instinct to always question what is wrong. I mean, I always say Super Kev is our NFL expert on this show.
It's actually Bobby, but
Is the Pro Bowl is the Pro Bowl good?
No.
I mean, what little I know about the Pro Bowl now, they're playing flag football, and half the guys say I'm not going.
That's right.
I mean, the only guy I care about, Josh Allen, like how many years in a row has he skipped it now? Like, what is this? You just skip the Pro Bowl because it's that bad, but there's no furor, there's no outrage, there's no hoopla because the Super Bowl is the week after. But in the NBA, it's like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. And then what's today? Tuesday? By Thursday, we won't remember any of this.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can't save the game. And we know, like, the NBA has kind of silently admitted that they can't fix the game because we got less game this year than we ever have. There were 3 games played to, 40? Last year, the final to the All-Star game was 211 to 186 this year. And that's after Adam Silver publicly and privately pleaded for the players to take it seriously.
That's right.
This year, the score to the final was 41 to 25. So I guess we brought defense back
kind of
by making the game. It lasted like 10 minutes, minus all the commercial breaks. They finally found a way to make an NBA game have less action than an NFL game, and that's by cutting it short, by putting a target score of 40 onto it. So really, really bad. We just don't need it. It's too late in the season. The season is already more than 2/3 of the way over. The games are finally starting to be interesting now that football season is over,
Yes.
and now we're taking a week-long break to play a game that most of the players don't want to play in. No one wants to be there. Nobody wants to watch. It's a bummer. It's a huge bummer. And, my whole brand is that I just love basketball. I think basketball is the coolest thing in the world. Like, that's all I ever talk about is how much I love this game. I did not watch. Last year, I only watched because Luka was in it, which is the same reason why I've only watched each of the last 5 All-Star games. And before that, I didn't watch the All-Star game except for when Dirk was in it during his last year because I had to, but he only played 5 minutes and I didn't have to watch anymore. It was awesome. I cannot stand All-Star Weekend. I think it's the most commercialized, like, soulless, bastardized version of basketball that we will ever be subjected to. And I think it's only going to get worse until they finally admit that it's a cooked product and they shouldn't have it anymore. We should not have an All-Star
It's funny, though,
weekend.
because that's what I think should be the next step. Cancel the All-Star game, and then everybody's going to be like, we need the All-Star game. How can there be no All-Star game? This is an outrage.
And that's the sad part to me, because just as a general sports fan, I grew up in the era of anticipating the NBA All-Star game every year. Like, I'm 38 years old, so I grew up in the heyday of watching Jordan and Kobe and all these guys, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett. Like, the competition that these guys engaged in during that weekend was still a lot of fun. And to your point, Mark, seeing those guys get together on that specific weekend was a treat and a joy because they didn't get together all that often. So to see all of them on the same page, whether it be East versus West, that was a lot of fun for me. But
this is not the case anymore.
It's just not the case anymore.
We can't pretend like it needs to be.
And and I think that's so sad to me because I really enjoyed the competition of what it used to be. But now, I mean, you had prior to the game on Sunday, LeBron James, literally hours before the game starts, he announces that he's not going to play. Anthony Edwards, in the middle of one of the first games, says he's not going to play because he's dealing with injury. So
very lame of them to do that.
And I thought, I agree. Like, LeBron announcing mere hours before the game that he's not going to play, I thought was not cool at all because it took away, honestly, an opportunity for a guy to be able to have that spot. Same for Anthony Edwards as well, because they knew they weren't going to play necessarily in the All-Star game. So for them to take up a roster spot, what I just thought wasn't great. But I mean,
don't worry, because we got a lot of rookies and sophomores playing in the game too.
And again, that's another part too.
What are we doing?
Yeah, Draymond Green was extremely critical of the idea of the rising stars playing in this weekend as well, because of the fact that they had a chance to be on the All-Star floor when they weren't necessarily All-Stars. Which, if you're looking at it from a holistic standpoint, I can get in some ways. The NBA All-Star Weekend is supposed to be, I thought, a celebration of the game itself. And one of the things you can celebrate is some of the young guys that are coming behind them, but not necessarily as All-Stars participating in All-Star Weekend.
I agree, though, but I find Draymond's words to be a little hollow because you can't talk up how sacred this court is and then have guys go out there and just do bits on it for 3 hours.
And also because
that can't be the case.
The reason why he's talking about it so critically is because the dudes that he played with kind of messed up the idea of the All-Star game. So you can't get out here blustering about how bad the All-Star game is when it's really your peer group that out here really kind of messed up the idea of the All-Star weekend to begin with. So I thought there was maybe some hypocrisy going on with some of those comments, but at the same time, just really disappointing in the presentation overall of the game. Like, you know how much I love Inside the NBA. Doing that presentation in the middle of the All-Star game in and of itself, I thought was ill-timed, to say the least. That could have been done after the game was over with.
Or just not at all. We're going to watch them on TV again in like 6 months.
So, okay, and a lot of people were saying that because they're going to be around with ESPN, but Turner Sports, their coverage of the NBA is ending after 41. Exactly. My sentiments exactly.
I mean, there were 20,000 people in the building wearing Turner Sports jerseys.
That's right.
They're really sad. I guess they did need that moment.
That's right. They needed Turner Sports to be celebrated. But yeah, a lot of folks not necessarily feeling great about the All-Star weekend. And real quick before we go to break, Bob, to your point, have the All-Star game in the middle of the season. Like when there's 41 games that have been played, hey, it's time to take a break. And then after that, you play the rest of the 41 games.
Honor Dirk, I agree.
Honor Dirk, exactly. Coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast, when we come back, Kyrie Irving, in his own words, he had a lot to say about not only his 9th All-Star game, maybe playing for Team Australia down the road, and also what to look forward to as the Mavericks get back to their schedule after the All-Star break. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
Hey, you. Have you ever heard of Ice Shaker? Ice Shaker is now officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, and MLB, and will make the ideal gift for the passionate sports fan in your life. Created and used by the Gronkowski brothers, Ice Shakers has sold over 1 million bottles. They've changed the game with workout bottles, and this is the one you've been looking for. If you go to iceshaker.com right now, use the code ALLCITY25 at checkout, you can save 25% off your order. They have a patented twist-in agitator that breaks up powders, but it's silent when you shake it. Instead of the annoying ball sound just clanging in there, making a ton of noise, it's going to wake up the whole house and everyone's going to hate you in the morning. It's third-party tested. It'll hold ice for more than 30 hours, and it's customizable, too. They got something. If you have something in mind that they don't have, you can send them your logo or check out their custom shop to customize your favorite bottle, and turnaround time is just 3 to 5 business days. Order your team-branded bottles today at iceshaker.com. Use the code ALLCITY25 for 25% off your order. Ice Shaker, show your support for your teams. The best branded workout bottles on the market. Ice Shaker.
If you love going to basketball games, football games, concerts, sporting events, you got to do it with Game Time to get your tickets. With Game Time Picks, it allows you to filter out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. I use Game Time to purchase my tickets to WrestleMania coming up on April 19th and 20th at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. I was able to use all-in pricing, so I knew exactly how much I was going to pay before I checked out. Also, the panoramic seat views as well, so I knew exactly where I was going to sit for my 2-night extravaganza in Las Vegas. They've got the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Remember, terms apply. Again, create an account and use code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today for last-minute tickets, lowest priced guaranteed. Shout out to Game Time.
Ooh.
That's right. As we continue here on the DLLS Mavs podcast, really appreciate all of you joining us here on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you are here, and do it for the same for our podcast as well, wherever you get your podcast for free. We just crossed the 17,000 subscriber threshold yesterday, so really appreciate all of you supporting us here at DLLS Sports.
Wow, without Cato, impressive.
Well, shout out to the Ranger Show. Ranger Show got it done this time around.
Radigan.
That's right.
Wilson. Wilson's in Arizona, right?
He is
on
hanging
the
out
scene
in Surprise, Arizona. Shout out to our guy, Jeff Wilson.
Big time.
If you love your Texas Rangers, DLLS Rangers, our podcast with Jeff Wilson, John Radigan, is the place to be every single day. Kyrie Irving, though, in his own words, of course, participating in the All-Star game this weekend, his 9th All-Star game appearance. 25 years ago, the NBA was in Oakland, California for the 2000 All-Star game. Back again 25 years later, celebrating Vince Carter and the amazing dunk contest that he had. But there was a lot of All-Stars on hand as well, including your own Kyrie Irving. Let's start here. Kyrie Irving speaking to the media after the game on Sunday, holding the championship trophy in hand, but had some other conversations and thoughts on his mind as well, including looking forward to 2028, potentially in the Olympics. And could he be playing for someone other than Team USA? Here's what he had to say.
And we're in the process of that right now, of just trying to figure out what's going to be the best route for me to be eligible. You know, there's a lot of paperwork in between that. You know, obviously USA still has a decision to make. Team USA still has a decision to make. But for me, I'm just trying to do what's best for me. And honestly, if I can be an Aussie at one point in my career, I play for the Australian team, that would be great, man.
And for folks who don't know, Kyrie Irving was born in Australia, so he may have an opportunity to play for Team Australia in the 2028 Olympics.
Look, this is something that clearly means a lot to Kyrie. So, I don't want to act like I am the body that will be making a ruling here. I'm just bringing a dose of realism to it because you guys know I cover this stuff. And I think it's going to be pretty difficult for him to get that clearance he wants. We just saw Klay Thompson in this situation with the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Klay Thompson could not get the needed clearance from USA Basketball because look, the individual federations are getting a lot of pressure from other federations and from FIBA because a lot of people looked at the Joel Embiid situation and said, wait a minute, is this free agency now in international basketball? But look, Joel Embiid never played for any country. He had 3 passports. He did have the right to choose by the rules. And look, Klay Thompson, we remember, Klay Thompson's father, Michael Thompson, is Bahamian born.
Mm-hmm.
He certainly qualifies as a Bahamian, but Klay played so much for the United States that once you play for one country, now FIBA can bless it in what they deem, extraordinary circumstances. We saw this many years ago with Akeem Olajuwon. Akeem Olajuwon was allowed to play for the United States, and I think he only played for Nigeria in junior competition. I really should know this off the top of my head, but you guys know in my old age, I don't trust my memory as much anymore. I don't think he played for the Nigeria senior team. But that's the thing. When you play for a senior team under one flag, switching is very, very difficult.
Sure.
So, Kyrie Irving was born in Australia. He's talked about wanting to play for Australia for many, many years. You heard his words. It clearly means a lot to him. But because he played for the United States on multiple occasions, even if the United States wanted to let him go to Australia, I think there would be such an outcry from other federations and FIBA behind the scenes. He was not exaggerating when he said there's a lot of work that needs to be done there because it's just not easy to do. I mean, he's played for the USA in the Olympics. I mean, he's played on the highest of stages. Mm-hmm. So when you play for one country, it is just very difficult to switch.
It's a bummer. I mean, it would be cool, I think, to see Kyrie and Dante Exum tear it up out there in the Olympics,
happen, yeah.
But we just got done talking about the All-Star game and about how little pride there is, how little seriousness is given to it and in the approach and in the presentation and everything. International basketball outside of, maybe super high level playoff games is really the last frontier of leaving it all on the floor, playing for something bigger than yourself, playing for pride. Right now in hockey, it's the 4 nations face off. You got Team USA and Team Canada beating the hell out of each other 15 seconds into the game. And there's not an Olympic medal on the line. It's just strictly for national pride and bragging rights and maybe a little money or whatever. But if players want to do this, now I know there's rules. I know there's systems in place. I know once you let one guy do it, it becomes easier for a lot of other people to do it, and things get very complicated very quickly. But I just hope that there is a way to find a resolution for this, because if Kyrie does want to play international basketball and can play international basketball for the country he was born in, then he should be able to. I would like to see it.
It would be fun to see him potentially play for Team Australia. Again, the next summer games will be in 2028, so still a few years away from there. We'll see how that plays out for Kyrie moving forward. That he would be, I would believe, 36 at the time of the 2028 Olympics. He'll turn 32 coming up here next month in March. Kyrie Irving, who had a really nice All-Star game, also had a nice little dunk for himself, had a nice alley-oop dunk as far as the game was concerned. Kyrie, John telling us that he still got some bounce in those 30-year-old legs these days.
Man, I still got bounce, man. I told you, I'm getting more athletic in my 30s, man. So in the All-Star game, a few of the players, my predecessors before me, threw it off the glass, so I thought I'd join the ranks with them.
And that was a fun moment from Kyrie Irving, throwing it off the glass to himself. You talked about seeing the lack of defense as far as the game was concerned. Kyrie played a little bit of defense in the All-Star game. And I thought one of the things that was really interesting from the game itself, when Victor Wembanyama got into the game, all of a sudden the competitive edge and juice kind of started to ratchet up a little bit. Mark, I'm sure if you watched the game a little bit, did you feel the same when Wembanyama got into the game?
Yeah,
the competitive edge kind of picked up a little bit when he got in there.
I've heard people say that, the new format there were elements of it that there were moments that it was more competitive than we've seen in the All-Star game, but it gets drowned out by all the negativity and noise that is around it. And look, another thing here, like it was in the 80s, this was a 23-team league. The All-Star rosters have always been 12, 12, 12. The league has not wanted to expand the All-Star rosters to 14 or 15. There have been calls that in a 30-team league, maybe that's what's needed. Now, we can debate that all day long. I am a traditionalist, so there is a huge part of me that would rather keep it to 12. But in this scenario, when we're now adding the 8 players from the Rising Stars game end up on the All-Star Sunday stage, does that make sense? I mean, that makes way less sense to me than expanding the rosters.
Yes.
So it's like, I think it was Damian Lillard who threw out the idea that maybe the other 8 guys should have been the all-snub team.
See, but that's kind of weird too, because
it is. That would never fly. Like, how do you? Hey, guys,
well, you're good enough to play in the All-Star game Sunday, but you're not good enough to be actually an All-Star in and of itself.
But it just like that made more sense to me than having 8 rookie stars guys in the game. Like, yeah. I mean, again. No slight to those young players who I'm sure were thrilled to get out there and have the chance to try to steal the game. But like, I mean, and here's the thing. And now USA versus World is next. They're going to try it.
Sure.
And you guys know my first story covering this league more than 35 years ago was about Vlade Divac coming to the Lakers. I have always been I love the international part of the game. I've covered so many great international players. It's been a huge part, a huge part of my career. Obviously, with Dirk and Luka here, I mean, Nash, on and on and on. But like, there are only 110-ish international players in the league. It would not be fair to choose 12 All-Stars from that group and then more than 300 plus American-born players only get 12 spots. It's just not, that would be ridiculously unfair based on pure mathematics. And Adam Silver actually said that. He did a press conference in Paris when the Pacers and Spurs played that 2-game series in January. He acknowledged that. But I do think they have dropped enough hints that that's the next one that is probably going to get the next chance. And
I feel like we're just throwing stuff at the wall. Like, let's try this, let's try that, let's try a tournament style, let's try USA versus World.
Seriously, I think the move is saying we're not going to have an All-Star game, and then people will be like, no, don't cancel it. We need it.
I wouldn't complain.
I know you would be good with it. No more All-Star game. Just name the All-Stars and have that be an honor, and then continue on with the and give them a week break.
Kyrie already has as many dunks this season as he had during his age 23 season. How about that?
Really?
1.
Oh, okay. 1. I thought you were going to be like 4 or 5.
1 dunk as a 23-year-old, 1 dunk as a 26-year-old, 1 dunk as a 29-year-old, and 1 dunk as a 30-year-old. 0 as a 27-year-old.
And now he's got a dunk in the All-Star game
this season.
That's crazy.
So Kyrie's not lying.
I guess he's still got some bounce left in those legs, but didn't show it very often. Let's finish up with this last one here. Kyrie Irving talking about the Mavericks and their health and trying to get ready for the post-All-Star break schedule and what that could possibly look like for this team as they get ready to get back on the floor on Friday night.
Man, we're going to put our best foot forward, man. We can't make any promises right now. We just got to get healthy, man. So that's where my focus is. And then once we do that and we put one game together at a time, great games consecutively, consistently, then I have a better answer for you.
And that's the name of the game for this team right now, is to get healthy. A little bit later on in the show, we'll have our National NBA insider, Marc Stein, detail, obviously, what we're looking at, hopefully, in terms of a potential timetable for Anthony Davis, if there is one. Obviously, the health of Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively II, up in the air as well. But for the Mavericks and Kyrie Irving, who is going to be 32 years old, going to be 33 here not too long from now, can he, in the 14th year of his career, continue to play the heavy minutes that he's playing right now? Play 5 consecutive games of at least 40 minutes prior to the All-Star break. Yes, the Mavericks have won 4 of their last 5 games, but at the same time, they've got a lot of work to do to try to get themselves into the top 6 of the West. But Kyrie Irving, in his own words, a terrific weekend for him, taking on the All-Star game winning trophy and now has a chance to get ready to help this Mavericks team make a push toward the playoffs after the All-Star break. When we come back here on the DLLS Mavs podcast, almost said post-game show, almost did it again, here on the podcast. Now that it's been 2 weeks and you've had a chance to sleep on it, think about it, ponder it, what has stunned you most about the Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis trade? A lot of responses I got on X/Twitter. I want to know some of your responses as well here on the DLLS Mavs podcast, and we'll react to that here on the show. All that more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
But first,
oh no!
oh boy,
Oh no!
well, that laptop.
That's not going to get it clipped.
That laptop would not be as damaged if it was a Rugged Road branded laptop, because these things are innovative and durable for adventurers and reporters who demand the very best. Their products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions even when they're banging on the floor. One of the most unique features of Rugged Road coolers is their ability to always float upright, so you will never lose a drink. And even though they're super heavy duty and can handle all the elements, these suckers are lightweight too, so they're easy to transport on any trip without compromising on performance. They're perfect for a variety of outdoor activities, from fishing and tubing to camping and tailgating. They can meet every single one of your needs. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code DLLS for 10% off.
And if you're a ball knower like Bobby, you got to take on Sleeper with the best fantasy league platform out there. You can put your ball knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite players will have more or less than their projected stats each week. With Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. You can always keep yourself in the loop with instant alerts and breaking news and major injuries. You can stay ahead of the game and keep track of league updates in real time, so you're always informed and ready to outsmart your friends like Bobby when it comes to his picks on
Not
Sleeper.
hard to do.
We needed to give Bobby a break so he could get himself together for the post All-Star break. Sleeper picks for him. If you think you have what it takes, though, new users can download the Sleeper app and use code DLLS Mavs to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. You can apply it to any contest as well. It doesn't have to be your first one when it comes to Sleeper. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states, so make sure you check out Sleeper today. As we continue here on the DLLS Mavs podcast, really appreciate you joining us here. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to DLLS Sports and this video while you're here. And you can find our podcast wherever you get your podcasts for free.
Shout out producer John, too, real quick, for stepping up and filling in for Tanner. We've had Tanner taking a vacation, selfish man vacationing during the season.
No,
we had
Tanner desperately needs a vacation just for me,
get away from
dropping
us.
laptops, not speaking into the microphone.
It's been an adventure.
But
Coming for your job, Tanner.
So everyone, shout out producer John in the chat.
Are producer John's hockey affiliations, are they known, or is that like
Yeah, they're
no,
known.
the Stars show's they're very aware of it.
Do they know about your basketball opinions that you should keep to yourself?
That's right.
Well, I only my basketball opinions, if I were to spew all of them right now, would cover maybe 60 seconds of show content and would only be useful for trolling KG.
Which we're not going to do right now. We're not going to do that at all right now.
So Tanner, again, a much-deserved vacation, a much-deserved break for me, but putting a Bruins fan and a Sabres fan together for an hour.
It's going to be like Canada and USA. I'll just beat the hell out of each other for 10 seconds.
I mean, my team's owners literally are Sabres fans. The Bruins owners are Sabres fans.
Oh, wow. That's
So,
cool.
Wow. Okay.
You know,
Cool.
they're money people. They just care about the playoff revenue.
That
and that's
sounds
about it.
familiar, actually. Wait a minute. The team's owners just kind of using the team as an investment vehicle?
Oh, gosh. Okay. As we continue here on the DLLS Mavs podcast, see what you're doing there. Let's jump into this conversation. I was very interested to get the response from folks, whether it be on social media and now today in the chat as well. Now that it's been 2 weeks since Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis were traded for one another, what has stunned you most about this trade, having read Marc Stein's report, having read other reporting throughout the course of the last couple of weeks when it comes to this trade and the reaction around the league and for us here at DLLS Mavs? What has stunned you most? We're going to get to some of the responses that I got from X on last night, but I want to start with you guys. what now after the last 2 weeks has stunned you most about this trade, and now that it's and how it went down specifically?
That it happened.
That, which is one of the very first response I got listed right now, is that it happened.
I still don't believe it. I went all the way to Los Angeles to watch number 77 wear a gold jersey, the gold that goes with purple and gold. I watched it with my own eyes. I still don't believe it. I've been writing and talking about nothing else for 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks, 16 days, 17 days, 18 days, whatever day this is. And I still cannot believe it. Do not want to believe it. Not sure how long it's going to take. But I mean, look, a week from tonight, the Mavericks are in Los Angeles to play Luka Doncic and the Lakers.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine what that is going to be like. I mean, you know, I put it in one of my pieces recently. I mean, even within that Laker organization, some are calling Lakerland Luka land now. I mean, it's you know, he is their universe now. And again,
and clearly willing to move heaven and earth to go get him what he wants.
Traded in the middle of a season, traded in the middle of the night, traded not even 8 months removed from the finals.
A trade so big, Bobby, that even Adam Silver had to address an All-Star
First
weekend.
question.
Yeah.
First question of the
Shout out to Tim Reynolds from the
First,
AP.
Excellent question. I mean, look, the answer upset a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of our friends in chat and our community and, you know, Mavs fans found, you know, I'm sure that answer, you know, upset them all over again. But props to Tim Reynolds from the AP. You know, I wasn't at All-Star Weekend. I'm sure there were some Dallas representatives in the room. Hopefully, I mean, the morning news was there. I think.
Yeah, Mike Curtis
was at All-Star Weekend, so he was going to get asked one way or the other by someone in the room. But, you know, Tim Reynolds from the AP, right to it. What do you say to a fan base that feels very, very jilted right now? I thought that was really good wording on that question.
I think that's the thing that surprises me most, is that the Mavs organization just, like, I guess didn't consider that or think about it. Not to say that if you're going to do something that's going to upset your fans that you shouldn't do it, but you should at least be prepared to talk about it, you know, and you should be prepared to, like we've said so many times, like, meet the fans where they're at, right? It really felt like once they made the trade, they came out and Nico said the stuff he did and Dumont said the stuff he did, and then they were kicking out fans, and then they were, you know, kind of everything just felt really like tone deaf. But the reaction was so strong and so powerful and so visceral from the fan base that it almost felt like the org kind of caught itself on its back foot, and, like, instead of kind of bowing down or laying out and letting people do what they needed to do, they fought back. And that was just really bizarre. I mean, but now it feels like, now fast forward 2 weeks, right? After the first couple games and they were removing people, now they're not doing it anymore. After they confiscated shirts and signs for a couple days, now they're not doing it anymore. It seems like now they're realizing, oh, we messed up, which just reeks to me of them just not having a plan in place.
Yeah.
Not like you have to have, like, you know, riot meetings before you make a trade. Like, that shouldn't be a standard part of the job now moving forward. But, you know, it feels like they're reacting to everything instead of having any idea of how people might feel about it, which really drives home and really reinforces the fact that the owner, the GM, a lot of people within the basketball side of things, a lot of people that are in charge of communication with the company, there are just a lot of aspects of that company that are new, that have not spent a lot of time here, that have not really forged connections with the fan base of the community or anything, which really underscores why so many Mavs fans feel like this isn't our team anymore. This is not my team. These people aren't one of us. You know, and that goes for people that live outside of Dallas, but especially people that live in Texas. Like, I don't really identify as a Texan, even though I've been here my whole life. But one thing that is very true of a lot of Texans, and this is kind of even true of me as someone that doesn't really feel like one of them, we kind of like our people to be kind of us.
Yeah.
You know? There's everyone kind of jokes like, "Don't California my Texas," or "Yankees get out of here," or whatever. But, like, people like people that are part of the community here. You know, if you're an outsider, you gotta try and fit in with what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And then we'll accept you. Everyone will accept you. You're fine. You're one of us now. that was not the case, and that clearly wasn't the case, and it's clearly not going to be the case because, again, when given the chance to at least say something nice about Dirk, the team's owner was like, no, Shaq worked harder than Luka, and I'm not even going to mention Dirk in this interview. So it's just really, everything just feels so out of touch and disconnected, and I think that's the part that still shocks me the most about this.
Some of the responses I got on X last night, one from Nick, for example, the fact that the Mavs had already done the hard part or lucky part in landing a generational superstar who led the team to a conference finals by 23 and the NBA finals by 25 and was ahead of schedule, and yet they traded him without the trade haul to appease a few giant egos. I think that's one of the more interesting sentiments out of all this as well, is that not just that the trade went down, but the lack of things that you got back in the trade as well. Yes, you got Anthony Davis back. A lot of folks also responding that they're surprised at how good Max Christie has been so far with the Dallas Mavericks. It's been a pleasant surprise for them. He's been great for Dallas, but at the same time, a lot of folks feeling like if you're going to trade a generational superstar, you had to get more for him, and that's not necessarily the case that happened there. And that's been a lot of the overwhelming sentiment that I got in terms of the response on Twitter and X was like, yeah, you traded Luka, but you didn't really get as much as you could have gotten back for the superstar that you traded for.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. Like, I obviously think Luka's an incredible player. But if you're gonna, if I'm gonna try and put myself in the position from the team, right, and the team decides that they want to do this, they want to move on from Luka, or they whatever. Stein, you've described them as just being over him. Like, if you feel that way, hey, you do you, but like, do your best.
Yes.
You know? And I don't think that anyone, no matter how this ends up, whether the Mavs are right or terribly, terribly wrong, as a lot of fans fear they will be, I don't think you'll ever be able to convince people that they did their best on this.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, is just really, really sad. Because, like, I am not a world-class, high-level athlete, and I'm not world-class at anything, but I am a really competitive person.
You
and
are a world-class director of content. Head of
oh, thank you.
That's
thank you. I was
sweet,
not
Mark.
fishing for compliments there, Mark. But I appreciate you saying that. But whenever I do something, if I'm trying to compete at it and I'm trying to be good at it, then I want to be really, really effing good at it. Like, I want to be better than you at it. I want to be better than them at it. I want to be the best. And if I ever put out something that I know isn't my best, I'm kind of embarrassed, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone, truth serum, lie detector test, whatever, I don't think anyone would admit that this was the best they could do. And that's just really hard to stomach.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is the sentiment for a lot of fans who looked at this trade, and obviously the relationship between Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison. You can go back and chronicle how deep their ties are together, with the through line being the late Kobe Bryant, of course. But I think for me, I think the part that has stunned me the most about this trade is, and you started to touch on it, Bobby, the reactionary nature to it. So many individuals who have gone on record saying that we didn't think that the reactions to this trade would be as visceral as it has been, which really is kind of disappointing when you think about the connection that the fans had to this particular player and what I like to call the social contract that they had that was ripped up by this organization without warning in the middle of the night, and its generational superstar. It's very difficult in sports to get a natural bridge from one superstar to the next and then have that superstar that came after the first one to be better than the previous superstar. And that's exactly what the Mavericks had. And not only that, they had a natural bridge where they played a year together to be able to have that connection even furthered. And we thought after the 21 years that you were going to get, that you got from Dirk Nowitzki, that we were on our way to maybe another 15 years with Luka Doncic, and to have that ripped away in the matter of moments, it felt like, even though it's been 2 years in the matter of 2 weeks at this point. That to me is what has stunned me the most, is that it is very difficult to have a situation play out as well as it did, and next thing you know, by its own accord, decide they didn't want to be in the business of Luka Doncic anymore.
But even if they're going to do it, just be prepared to handle it. Like, restaurants are more ready to handle when they remove an item from the menu than the Mavs were when they traded Luka. Like, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, like, I truly cannot comprehend how ill-equipped they were to handle this, Mark.
I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother subject that is just incomprehensible. That, they've really given off the impression that this reaction was more than they were expecting. And it's like, it's not just that Luka is a generational talent. which is the hardest thing to acquire in the NBA. Like, that's why the Lakers are so giddy, because they've just done the hardest part. Like, the Lakers have a 10-year runway they did not have 3 weeks ago, because that's how the Lakers have been wondering, how are we going to move on from LeBron and AD? And now they have Luka to build around for the next X amount of years.
Unless he goes to Denver.
Wow, head of content now, head of breaking news.
I'm just saying. Orlando, get ready.
Wow.
Where was I going with all that?
Sorry, I just cut you off to make a joke.
Well, it's still my fault that I can't even remember where.
I mean, but you mentioned the 10-year runway that the Lakers now have with Luka Doncic.
I know where I was. Now I remember. Like, it's not just how great Luka was. And again, 5 straight All-NBA first teams at his age. You never see that. But it was also, there was Dirk and Luka are very tightly connected.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I do not think factored into the Mavericks thinking here. That Dirk Nowitzki played here. The Mavericks brand in the 21st century was, this is the team where Dirk Nowitzki is the only team he ever played for. He played 21 years. It's an NBA record. He won a championship. They put a statue outside the building that says, "Loyalty never fades away." And then in 2018, months before Dirk's last season, they found a way on draft night to acquire the rights to Luka Doncic, who had the glittering European resume that Dirk did not show up with. Dirk didn't play at the highest levels of European basketball when the Mavs got him. Luka achieved everything you could achieve before you came to the NBA. He won a Eurobasket with Slovenia. Slovenia is a tiny country. To co-lead Slovenia with Goran Dragic to that championship was an immense achievement as a teenager. A EuroLeague MVP as a teenager. The Mavericks find a way to get the Atlanta Hawks to do this trade with you and give you the rights to Doncic. And then Luka and Dirk play a season together. There is a literal passing of the torch. And now it's Luka's team. So, like, they traded all of that away, too. They broke a lineage that you just never thought was going to be broken unless Luka asked for it to be broken. And he did not. He did not ask to be traded. He was in the process of buying a new house here. You guys read what he said in his farewell letter to Dallas. He said he thought that he was going to be here buzzer to buzzer of his NBA career. So when you factor in all those things, that's why it is so emotional.
The Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis trade still reverberating around the NBA was a big topic of conversation throughout the All-Star weekend as well, and will continue to be a topic of conversation for not only the rest of the year, but for years to come. Coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs Podcast, we dial up the Stein line with our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, the latest when it comes to what a potential return for Anthony Davis could look like as the Mavericks continue to deal with their injury woes going into their post-All-Star break schedule. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs Podcast.
But first, diehard read. I want to shout out everybody that's become a diehard since Valentine's Day. I love Valentine's Day. I love all of y'all for becoming diehards. Shout out to David, to Derek, to Grant, to Kimber, to Christian, to Matthew, Cameron, David, Zach, Nick, Bob, and Jacob. Shout out to all of you for becoming diehards. What a diehard is a member of our community here at DLLS Sports. Everyone's hanging out in the chat. You sub to the channel. You comment on the stream. You like the videos. You share them. That's all great. But if you want to financially support what we're doing here at DLLS Sports, you can sign up by scanning that QR code, going to the link in the description beneath this video, or going to alldls.com/diehard, where for a limited time, hey, you see it on the screen. It's Ranger Spring Training Season. We're running a limited time deal. It's $4 a month. It's $48, one easy annual payment to become a diehard. What you get when you sign up is, first off, a free shirt of your choosing. We got a lot to choose from, including we just dropped some, I believe, some St. Patty's Day merch. I don't know. Oh, my God. Oh, I want to hang out with that leprechaun.
Look at that.
I want that leprechaun to be my friend so bad. But we also got some team theme ones, some DLLS theme ones. There's a lot to choose from. We got more than 30 shirt designs. You also get to read our entire website, all the paywall written content. You get to join the DLS Discord server. You get a discount on merch. You get a discount on events, including a DLLS Stars watch party coming up at Cosm here pretty soon, whenever they take on those hated Edmonton Oilers. And as I understand, we had 3 tickets left before the show started. I don't know if there are any left at this point, so no promises. There's 2 tickets left, says Kat.
Shout out
so
to Kat.
Act fast. Act fast. You also get a physical
look,
diehard card and a whole lot more. So thank you. Godspeed. God bless. And let's talk sports.
As we finish up here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Again, thank you to all of you joining us here today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to DLLS Sports while you are here. It's time to dial up the Stein line here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Still a few days before the Mavericks resume their post-All-Star break schedule on Friday when they welcome in Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans. Only one game in the association tomorrow, and it involves the team that has number 77 on it now in Luka Doncic, as the Lakers will be in action tomorrow in the only game in the association tomorrow. I'm sure LeBron's thrilled that the NBA resumes tomorrow.
Well, it's funny, if you go back to the old days when a player was supposed to be in the All-Star game and did not participate due to injury, the old rule was years and years and years ago was you couldn't play in the next game. So theoretically, in an older NBA, LeBron would have been ruled out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you remember, those rules really no longer apply. In 2018, Jimmy Butler did not play in the All-Star. He was in Minnesota at the time, was injured, did not play in the All-Star game. He was allowed to play in Minnesota's next game, but then he actually did sustain a knee injury that cost him some time that year. So I mean, it was a totally legit injury. But I'm just saying, in the old, years and years ago, if you were an All-Star, you went to the All-Star game and didn't play due to injury, you would have been held out. But something tells me that will not happen with LeBron. And if he's good enough to go Wednesday, he'll be in there. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that he'll be cleared to play.
Well, speaking of LeBron James, his former teammate Anthony Davis, of course, a part of the Dallas Mavericks now, and the Mavericks dealing with some significant injury issues with Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, and Derek Lively II. Mark, as we look forward to the Mavericks getting back on the floor on Friday, obviously the biggest concern for this team remains Anthony Davis and what this adductor strain potentially looks like for him from an availability standpoint. Where are we when it comes to Anthony Davis moving forward here?
So, as we know, the Mavs have there's been no projected recovery timetable shared publicly. My read of the situation is that that's by design, to take pressure off the situation, give AD some time to go through some rehab, see how he's progressing. But, the team has also not announced a firm course on how to treat the injury, whether or not surgery is going to be required. Now, last week, I know McMahon and Windhorst said so on ESPN. I reported the same thing on Twitter. I think we all heard it. There was tangible hope circulating around the team last week in those final few games that surgery might not be necessary. But in my follow-up reporting, I mean, it is important to note, no one in a position to do so has come out and said conclusively that it won't happen. So we're still in a waiting game. We still don't know. And when I checked in after the All-Star game, I wrote a long piece about this Friday. When I checked in after the All-Star game, I was basically told there's no update. It's basically where it stands. So all we know is that it's really, like I said on Super Bowl Sunday, Anthony Davis is out for an indefinite period. And to this point, we don't really have much guidance on how long that's going to be. The Mavericks, I believe they get together for a lighter session of sorts tomorrow. I'm guessing probably an afternoon, evening kind of thing to give everyone time to get back into town. They do have a real and full practice scheduled Thursday, and then Friday's home game with New Orleans. Obviously, there will be some media availabilities connected to those practices. Will we get more of a picture from the team? We'll just have to stay tuned and see.
There's a lot of skeptics. Easy for me to say, Kevin. There's a lot of that within the fan base right now.
Sure.
Given AD's own history and the general injury-related misfortune of this team. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that.
And I'm trying to look, and you get it. You understand how frustrated Mavs fans are about so many things right now that, but I'm really just trying to deal in as much as I can confirm, verify, report. And so,
is there any potential help on the way in the forms of PJ Washington and Caleb Martin? We know about the statuses when it comes to Daniel Gafford out at least 6 weeks. Derek Lively II right now in a walking boot as far as the ankle stress fracture is concerned.
Dwight Powell works here, we think.
When we last saw this team Thursday night beating Miami, there was a whisper that, things were trending okay with PJ. So I didn't get the vibe that was going to be a long-term absence. Does that mean for sure he's playing Friday against New Orleans? I'm not in a position yet to say that. I everybody's been away. So, I don't know, but last week, I guess what I'm saying, last week when the team, everybody dispersed to go on their All-Star break, I wasn't hearing a huge sense of worry about PJ being out long-term, but obviously Lively and Anthony Davis, the Mavericks don't know when they cannot give you a specific time frame when these two very important players are due to return. With Gafford, we've heard the projected time window. The reported time window is in the 6-week range. I mean, if that proves to be true, it's basically going to cost him the rest of the regular season or pretty close to it. With Dwight Powell, when he initially suffered the injury, I don't think it was anticipated that it would be this severe, but he's missed 14 games in a row now.
Mm-hmm. So,
I saw Grant Afseth reported something yesterday that word was that Dwight's been able to get some workouts in during the break. I just, until these guys are back in town, I don't want to sit here and tell you, yes, we're going to see so-and-so Friday, because I don't know.
Sure. And as far as you had another detailed Substack piece come out over the weekend, as we had the All-Star game as well, with some fresh reporting about just not only the trade itself, but also some of the reaction around it as well, and the team and how they have moved forward here. What else can you kind of enlighten us on when it comes to not only the team's feelings around this, but more so if this team is going to be okay even in the short term, having moved on from it?
I was doing a radio show Friday with Jason Smith on Fox Sports Radio, and he was trying to hit me with, well, they have won 4 out of 5. They were very close to winning all 5 of those games. Maybe things are going to be okay. And until we hear some clarity on how soon Anthony Davis can get back on the floor, the Mavs were undeniably gritty in that 5-game stretch, and it should have been a 5-game winning streak. They should have finished off Sacramento and somehow taken a 5-game winning streak into the break. But even saying all that, it's I would imagine the Corellustrator, who's a touch more emotionally invested in this than me, would want to know more about Anthony Davis before anybody dares to say things are going to be okay.
And before he responds, we want to thank our television audience for joining us here on the DLLS Mavs Podcast today. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to DLLS Sports, and visit alldlls.com to become a diehard member as well. We'll be back tomorrow at noon with our guy Tim Cato joining us on the show as well. Appreciate you joining us here. As we continue here on our YouTube side of things with the DLLS Mavs Podcast, your response, Mr. Corella, to
yes, as is the case when Luka was here, as is the case when Dirk was here, as is the case when you have one of those guys, right? And I'm not suggesting that AD is on Luka's level as a player, but I do believe that AD is he's in the small circle.
Sure.
Just like Dirk was in the small circle, even if Dirk was never Luka. Unless you have that guy, nothing else really matters at all. I think that Kyrie at his best can be one of those guys. but I don't believe at this point in his career and with the lack of size helping him on the defensive end and with the lack of proven playmaking around him and the heightened defensive attention that he's going to get on a nightly basis, I can't count on Kyrie being that guy every single night. The way that if AD was healthy, Kyrie can probably be pretty close to that guy every single night, and AD is also that guy. And now you can understand why they think, yeah, this could be a title team, because we don't got one guy, we got two. Right now they have one, and he's going to be double teamed all the time. So almost none of the other health situations matter if AD is not healthy. If AD is out and the rest of the Mavs are healthy, I'm still just as low on the team as I would be if everybody's out and AD is also out. I don't think they can win a title without AD. The Mavs' only goal this year, as stated by the PJ Washington all the way up to the GM and the owner and whatever, is title or nothing. If AD is out, you're not winning a title. So it almost nothing else even matters. And if that's what you're judging them by.
This is pressure they put on themselves.
Yeah, like self-inflicted pressure.
Like they're the ones, because of this trade, that like they have to win this year or next year. Do you dare stretch that to a third year? Okay, let's stretch it. Can they win one in the next 3 years? Even though I really don't think you can think like that. I mean, it's got to be this year or next year. I mean, your main players are in their 30s.
But this year's already done.
And that's
the
thing.
Not happening.
That's the thing. I mean, it's like with as many injuries as they have, even if AD were to make a seamless comeback in March, like they're not just missing him. I mean, we don't know how Lively's going to bounce back. They're not going to have Gafford most likely for the rest of the regular season. The whole thing was to have bigs to play next to Anthony Davis, and right now they have zero. Even if Anthony Davis makes, again, a seamless comeback, which, that seems like, you're asking a lot there. The Mavs believe within the Mavs front office, they believe Anthony Davis is a top 10 player in this league. And the way he played in the first half of his debut, he looked like a top 10 player in this league. But if he can't sustain that, those beliefs, they're immaterial. And the Mavericks, again, with the decision that this front office and this organization has made to go away from Luka Doncic, when they did, how they did, you not only need to win in the next 2 seasons, you need Luka Doncic to not go on to greatness in Los Angeles. I'm going to daringly put my hand up and say, Luka Doncic is going on to greatness in Los Angeles.
Sure.
Like, they need that not to happen in addition to their own success. Like, I'm sorry. I think Luka's going on to greatness in LA too. So, I mean, they have to win somehow in these next couple years. And
oh, by the way, Anthony Davis has got a 3-year, $175 million contract extension that kicks in at the beginning of next season as well.
Yeah, and Kyrie can become a free agent in a couple months. And after next season, AD is going to be another year older. Mm-hmm. And if this season is already down the tubes, well, then you got one chance, right? That's
one gone.
And let's be gracious. Let's give him 3. Let's give him 3 years just for the sake of discussion.
Sure. So then you got 2 chances
still
after this.
Really hard to say we got to win it. Does any team on the NBA map want to say we have to win a championship in the next 3 years?
No, because it usually doesn't work. But also, that's if you're able to keep Kyrie, which is
if Clay doesn't retire between now and then.
Yeah, but then also after next season, PJ Washington becomes a free agent. He is going to get a massive raise, and deservedly so.
Yes,
Daniel Gafford will be a free agent if he's even still on the team. Klay Thompson is 35 now. 3 years from now, he's going to be 38. Like, there's just nothing is guaranteed, which is why you always want to keep as many possibilities on the table as possible. As many possibles as possible.
That's right.
That doesn't make any sense. Just kind of like the way they're operating right now.
Not making a lot of sense whatsoever. But this team has a chance, having won 4 out of the last 5 games going into the All-Star break, to hopefully keep up some of that momentum. We will see if they're able to do so, even with the injuries that they have to deal with going forward, because it is a number of them that they've got to overcome in order to win and win big the rest of
the season. They're only 3 games ahead of 11th, so they got a lot to overcome just to make the play-in.
Just to make the play-in, yeah. So there's also that when it comes to this team and the schedule that they have moving forward here. We appreciate all of you joining us today on our show. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on the way out the door as well. You can do the same for our podcast. Wherever you get your podcast for free, give it a 5-star rating and write a review for it while you're there. Tim Cato, our Mavericks beat writer, will be back with us on tomorrow's show. Marc Stein will be on the program as well from an undisclosed location, so we look forward to having him on the show.
But you and I will be right here.
Man, I'm high maintenance.
We love you still, Mark. We still love you.
The maintenance fees are low.
That's right.
If at all.
Shout out to
and it's so worth it, Mark.
Shout out to our producer today, John Anderson, as we borrowed him from the
Bruins
DLLS
fan.
Stars show.
The Bruins
By the way,
fan.
Tanner can't work, but he's in the chat.
Yeah, Tanner,
Coming for
great
that
stuff,
crown,
man.
Tanner.
Thanks, Tanner. Appreciate that.
John's got on a Pats hoodie. I know you saw that too, Mark.
I actually didn't
gosh,
see it. With
let's
my
not-
failing
let's-
eyesight, I did not
We were
see it.
doing great until you mentioned that. We didn't have to mention that at
We don't have
all.
to start counting Super Bowls in this room, do we?
That'll do it for our show
Yeah,
today.
let's end
Thanks
it now.
to
Let's
John
end it
for
right there.
producing our show. That's our National NBA insider, Marc Stein. That's our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Krill. I'm your host, Kevin Gray. We are DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 12 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports. Y'all be good. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.